Hello and welcome to The Broken Sword. Today we are having a quick look at those new couple of images released by the Rings of Power show.
Build me an army worthy of Mordor.
The Lord of the Rings of Power show is slowly creeping towards us, and today they have released two new character images for us to see. We have pictures of the characters of Bronwyn and Theo. So let us take a quick minute now to have a look at both of these. Let us start with Bronwyn. Accompanied with this image, we get the description of: wearing a long red hooded cape, Bronwyn stands near a small pool of water that sits within a rocky mountain. Bronwyn is being played by the actress of Nazanin Bonaidi. I really hope I'm saying that correctly, and I really do apologise if I butchered the name. But anyway, for those of you who have not linked them together yet, this is the hand poster that links with hers if we go back to all of those that were released what feels like an age ago. So, from that, does it straight away give us any information? Well, yes, I suppose it tells us that she is by a rocky mountain. But just where could this mountain be? Is it trying to give us any hints? We have been told previously that Bronwyn is from the land of Harad, with Harad being the land that lies to the south of Mordor, and is generally associated with the enemies of our good guys, the ones that like to cause a lot of problems to those in Gondor in the Third Age, those that rode the Mumakil into the Battle of the Pelennor. With it also being on the border of Mordor, you can understand why they were, a lot of the time, the allies of Sauron. So perhaps she could be in one of these kind of locations. Or the other theory that I am now seeing, having looked at these properly today, is how that these rocky mountains look very similar to those that the Fellowship are on in the Fellowship of the Ring after they all leave Moria after Gandalf has fallen with the Balrog. So, could this river perhaps be the one that in fact leads to the Mirrormere? With the Mirrormere being the lake to the east of Moria, the lake that Durin the Deathless looked upon and saw himself wearing a crown of stars in its reflection, which then in turn led him to choose that location to be the place to found his realm of Khazad-dûm. After all, we do know that we will see a Durin in the show, we know that we will see Khazad-dûm in the show, so it could perhaps make sense. But also then, why could she possibly be here if she is from Harad? In some ways, I guess there's two options. One is that she is a good guy, and she has left her lands, which are generally considered evil, to go somewhere more prosperous, somewhere nicer, somewhere just not full of darkness and evil. And they may well have heard of the great realm of Khazad-dûm and how it is somewhere worth visiting. This could be it. Or she could also be someone evil. Perhaps she is a spy. Perhaps she could even be an assassin. Maybe she has been sent from the land of Harad to go and gather information, or perhaps take someone out from these lands. Again, both of these could be very long shots, could not even be anywhere near Khazad-dûm, but it is still fun to kind of have a little theory. And now quickly, before we jump to the second image, I would like to ask you all to do me a favour. I'm asking you all if you could please leave me a comment of two things, and that is: firstly, the thing that you are most looking forward to for the Rings of Power show, and then secondly, the thing that you are least looking forward to about the Rings of Power show. Now that we've had a little bit of time to let all the initial reaction die down from the trailer release and everything, I'd be very curious to know how you are all thinking. Are you any more excited now than you were? Are you less excited now than you were? Or are you just kind of still the same? I'd be really curious, and I really cannot wait to read all of your thoughts and comments on this in the comment section below. But anyway, now we move on to Theo. And before anything, let's look at how this image is labelled as well. It says, Theo gazes at a broken sword he holds in his hands. The sword is old and jagged, and the hilt is ornate. This Theo is going to be played by Tyro Muhafedin. Again, really hope I've said that correct, and I really do apologise if I butchered the name. But anyway, to link it to his hand poster as well, we see the sword he's holding as well as the similar kind of clothing too. So, from that description, what can we judge? Not too much, just by the words. The gaze that Theo has, though, gives you the feeling that this is probably the first time that he has seen this blade. Maybe he is linked to Bronwyn in some way, with these two images having been released at the same time. Could there be a link between them? Maybe the sword is being shown to him by Bronwyn, so there is some purpose to that. Maybe, but it is also obviously impossible to know for sure at this point. Theo obviously appears to be a younger person too, which I will admit did surprise me a little bit, as I kind of just assumed that the hand from the hand posters was that of a generally middle-aged man. Didn't think it was of a younger boy, but it certainly appears to be that way now. And then what about this sword? Maybe it is some sort of heirloom to Theo's family in some way, with it being passed down or won at some point in the past? Although the blade does look dark though, so maybe even this is some foreshadowing of something evil. Maybe Theo is going to end up being one of the Nazgul, perhaps. Obviously at this point he appears way too young to become one, but maybe this is the character arc we're going to see of some happy-go-lucky, ambitious young kid who really wants to do good in this world and then gets tainted by the dark powers of Sauron and ends up being one of the darkest creatures ever. You never know. It's a character arc I can very much imagine seeing somewhere in the show, and maybe Theo is the one to do it. And another theory that I have seen, and one that I will address here, is that this blade could be the one known as Gurthang. This sword was the sword of Turin Tarambar, reforged from Anglakel, the sword that was forged by Eol the Dark Elf, and he did this from a meteorite. A meteorite? That sounds familiar. Oh, and what was the end of Gurthang? Well, the blade broke when Turin committed suicide by jumping down the gorge known as Kabed and Aras, with it then getting buried with Turin at the Stone of the Hapless. It is said that this stone was not drowned like the rest of Beleriand, leaving it as an island named Tol Morwen. Really, this leads to the possibility that either someone has stumbled upon it while sailing, purposely looked for it while sailing, or it in time has somehow been washed out from the island and up to the shores of Middle-earth. The thing that goes against this though is that all of these actions did happen in the First Age, obviously with it ending with Beleriand being drowned, and just this island being left in the middle of the ocean with, again, the sword actually being buried underground on the island. So the whole idea of whether Amazon can have any rights from anything from the First Age does make this very fuzzy and maybe just a bit of a stretch. You don't really know, because as well as this story is really said about in the Children of Húrin, and that is something that Amazon do not directly have the rights to. Now yes, it is possible they get the rights to one or two things from it, but it's hard to know if it'll be that important to them. Maybe they just want to take the same idea, the same story of this kind of sword being forged from meteorite, with completely different names of course, and just use that same idea for the show. It will be interesting to see. But with all that really, at the end of the day, it is very hard to get too much from these. It is just 2 new character images that we had, so I don't want to scrape that butter too thin over too much bread, but I still thought it would be fun to have a quick look at 1 or 2 theories as well. And so, there we have it, a very quick look at those 2 latest images that we have received. While we get to see the character of Theo holding the hilt of a broken sword that looks very cool, and also Bronwyn looking out in front of some rocky mountain at a river, that is really all the details that have officially been revealed for either one. The rest of it is just some fun speculation on our part as a fandom. Are these 2 characters linked? Are they mother and son, family, friends, or is there no link between them whatsoever and the releasing of these 2 images at the same time means nothing at all? Who knows? And this is of course where you all come into it. What do you think? Have these boosted your excitement in any way, shape or form? I know there is so much worry about this series, and I will say, as I've said before, I'm still excited to see it. It is an adaptation of Tolkien's work at the end of the day, and I love all the journeys that I can take into Middle-earth. This one the same as the rest. Until I have gazed upon it with my own 2 eyes, I will try and refrain from too much judgment. I really just hope this one does not disappoint. I really do. So thank you if you have reached the end of this video with me today. I really hope you all have a great day, a great weekend, and a great time in general. You are all incredible people, and I appreciate every single one of you. So thank you once again if you've reached the very end of this video with me today, and I will see you next time on The Broken Sword.